Hello everyone, I would like to give you some practical indications useful for those on an evolutionary transpersonal path on how to undertake an integral practice connected with life. It is a practice that encompasses various other practices to be chosen and applied on the various layers of being, bodily, emotional, mental, and spiritual, expressed in the individual and collective domains. Our layers of being are interconnected. If we want to grow harmoniously in our stages of consciousness, what Wilber calls growing up, and evolve on the cognitive level, that is, in awareness, we cannot neglect any of our layers of being. We can rather consider them as muscles, which must be kept trained if we want to be healthy and if we want to be ready to receive the inspirations that come to us from above and that make us awaken to higher states of consciousness, which is what Wilber calls waking up. The awakening, combined with the harmonious growth, can foster our cognitive structure to develop in a stable way, making us reach a higher stage of consciousness, in which, in addition to feeling happier and more fulfilled, we will discover new challenges and, unfortunately, even new shadows. We could also discover new ways of creating the shadow, more and more sophisticated, but not lastingly functional, and we could learn to disidentify ourselves more and better from our ego, not by abandoning it or eliminating it. These options are quite impossible, even if we want to. But by abandoning, yes, this is possible, our identification with the ego. An integral life practice, as Wilber describes it, is in itself very simple and also funny, but it requires presence and awareness. It is somehow an advanced practice because it already requires qualifications. In fact, those who venture into it when having a series of structural conflicts may even see their conflicts or disorders increase due to it. It is clear that the severe conflicts or disorders must at least be brought back to normality or adaptation, if not resolved, through psychotherapy, for example. Of course, this is not a rule, but a suggestion. He who undertakes an integral life practice should have the will not only to feel better through it, but above all to know himself better and be more present. In fact, those who undergo psychotherapy or a practice of this type only to get better, that is, to overcome the symptoms, they only achieve half of the goal. The practice, for those who do it with the purpose of self-knowledge and evolution, requires commitment and a consciential stance that aims at energetic harmony and avoids the dispersion of energies. The authentic spiritual traditions of all times, especially those that exalt knowledge as a way of realization of the self, the ultimate universal essence that dwells in the heart of all beings, indicate that this progress is carried out through the opening of mind and heart, that is, the cultivation of the cognitive and aspirational or devotional aspects. In the practice, therefore, we should try to exercise the levels of being with respect, desire for knowledge, and lovingly. Concretely, in our daytime, there should always be activities that heal and feed body, emotional life, mind, and spirit. The physical body is a vehicle of the spirit. That's why it must be fed well, with healthy and balanced food. It must be trained, kept young and flexible. Therefore, first of all, we need a correct diet. Today, many studies indicate that the macro-Mediterranean diet is among the most balanced. That is, a diet based on whole grains, leafy vegetables, fish, little or no milk and its derivatives, little or no meat, little salt, little or no refined sugars, little or no alcohol. Besides, recent studies show that the gastrointestinal system acts as a second brain, having neuronal fibers that also have projections in the brain. That's why it is obvious that the entire digestive process, so everything we ingest, ultimately affects the exercise of awareness. The physical body must not be used as a vehicle of discharge for unresolved emotional complexes that cannot be managed. For example, while taking alcohol and drugs may seem to some to alleviate negative emotional states or arouse positive ones, having these habits has decidedly harmful effects on the body. It is clear, therefore, that one needs to train on oneself to live one's emotional level in a healthy way. For example, correctly breathing, as in yoga pranayama. Even sport, dance, art, watching good movies can have a positive effect on this level of being and constitute an integral life practice, as long as these activities are carried out with awareness and joy. Getting in touch with one's own emotions can be achieved, as well as via the previous methods, also simply by relaxing and with eyes shut, evoking emotions one wants to get in touch with, freely expressing the feelings. If necessary, one can voluntarily amplify one's own emotional experience. Educating, or sometimes re-educating, the mental level is perhaps the most difficult practice to carry out, given that, especially in the West, we are used to being used by the mind, by our thinking, rather than using it, as we should, as a vehicle for evolution. Therefore, thinking well is the goal of the practice for this level. Mindfulness-based meditation is the privileged practice, and cognitive restructuring as well, when the personality is destructured in some of its parts, that can be achieved with cognitive psychotherapy or with the intelligent dialogue. The practice on the spiritual level considers meditation and prayer as privileged elements, but also the exercise of love in its highest forms is certainly important in this regard. Finding moments of silence during the day can be done quite easily, especially when one has been trained, often with a formal practice, to reach the meditative state, which allows discrimination and detachment from one's mental contents, sensations, emotions, thoughts. A practice of alignment to the transpersonal self can be combined with that of the inner silence. What can be done concretely and is beneficial for the growth towards the transpersonal is to alternate all these practices during the daytime, moving from one practice to another with awareness and openness of mind and heart. Doing too much of one at the expense of another, on the other hand, can be deleterious. Furthermore, action should always be alternated with contemplation, as the monastic rule of Saint Benedict also teaches. Ora et labora, pray and work. In this context of growth in consciousness, contemplation is important because it helps stabilizing in consciousness the experiences carried out during the time of action. We all definitely hope that through these practices and over time, each practitioner will be able to achieve integration and development towards healthier and more mature stages of consciousness. In order to deepen the themes I have dealt with, I recommend reading the following texts: Integral Life Practice by Ken Wilber and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I thank you for your attention and I hug all of you spiritually.